air fryer chicken wings. This is the core to a meal that we look forward to in our home on a roughly monthly basis. I say roughly on a monthly basis because for our primary protein intake on a given week, between the two of us, we go through about a whole chicken. I personally buy a whole chicken rather than the individual bits, the breasts, thighs, or wings alone, for two reasons. First, buying the whole chicken ends up on average being cheaper per pound compared to buying the separated bits alone. Even when you account for the fact that you're paying for the bones rather than just the meat, you still end up eating up the per pound price when you're dealing with the whole chicken rather than the trimmed pieces alone. Secondly, there's also baked in variety to our weekly routine. Thighs and tenderloins will typically be used for our cast iron chicken seared salads. Breasts are still our all-around, all-purpose sort of chicken, and we'll use those ranging anywhere from like a chicken shawarma all the way over to like a chicken fajita or something like that. Drumsticks, those tend to stay in our freezer for the longest out of any of the cuts. For us, the tendon to meat ratio isn't exactly the most ideal, but this isn't to say they don't have use. They'll typically be pulled out of the freezer, especially when it comes to some of the later in the week meals, like a chickpea chicken curry. The drumsticks end up being pretty great for that. Then occasionally I'll also use the leftover scraps, the carcass, bones, and other things like that to make a really nice stock when it comes to like special occasions. But really, if I'm gonna save it, I have to have a decent amount of freezer space, and that's sometimes not always the easiest to come by for us. But there's one meal that we always, without a doubt, will be looking forward to. That is Bdubs night. We'll keep a couple of bottles of Bdubs sauce here at home, cycling through different flavors to keep things interesting, and we're good to go to have some bone-in style wings at home without paying for the Bdubs prices. For the two of us, about 6 wings per person is typically a decent serving size. Given that each bird comes with 2 flats and 2 drummettes, this means about once every 3 weeks we get a home Bdubs night. The prep work for these is incredibly straightforward. Astute viewers are going to notice that I'm making a smaller batch today, but the instructions are going to be largely the same for the 12 wing batch, just different ratios when it comes to the seasonings and whatnot. And on the topic of seasonings, we're not going to really be using any measurements. It's really going to be just on vibes. It's not that deep. For this, just some salt, black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and then a bit of cornstarch to help coat things and dry them out before we send it off to the air fryer. If you're like me and you're starting out with frozen wings, you're gonna need a fair bit of cornstarch to help dry things out. Moisture is gonna be our enemy if we're trying to get any sort of crispiness in our end air fry result. But with that, we'll spray the bottom of the air fryer down, toss in our chicken wings, give a healthy coating of spray oil on the top, and then send them off to cook at 375. When I'm doing a whole batch of 12 wings, it'll typically fill up the entire basin, which tends to make things a little bit cramped for my comfort and kind of constricts a little bit of the airflow that makes the air fryer, an air fryer. This is part of the reason why long-term, ultimately, I am looking forward to having like a convection oven, just larger batches, a lot more spacing, and, a better overall crispiness around the outside for that convective heating. And the cleanup might be a little bit easier too in that aspect. But all this is besides the point. You'll let your wings blast away in the air fryer for about 10 to 12 minutes at 375, then give a good flip to promote a more even bake, then back into the air fryer to continue along for an additional 5 to 6 minutes. This time, it's gonna be at a hotter 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The second time around at the higher temp is really where we're driving to get some of that crispiness, some of that delicious browning on the outside, that deep coloring. That's what we're looking for, and that's how we're gonna know that the second bake is done. After that, all that's left to do is grab a modest-sized mixing bowl with an associated lid, place your wings in and a sauce of choice, and then send it to Spin City. Then, you're all good to plate up. Enjoy. Now, I feel like out of all the recipes that I've made for this channel, this is definitely one that I feel like I'm the most professionally qualified in order to make. Back in college, I used to work at a dining hall, and on Thursday nights, it was wing night, and somebody, yours truly, was responsible for tossing and saucing all of the wings during the Thursday night dinner rush. We're talking like non-stop for 4 to 5 hours of taking the boneless chicken wings, tossing them in a bucket, saucing them up, and then just giving the shake weight treatment over and over again, very repetitively, for like $9 an hour every Thursday. I'll say it this way, I enjoyed working at the dining halls, but not particularly on Thursdays. It was just a little bit too repetitive on that aspect. But I think that's about it. I think I've gone on and rambled on for just about enough for today. You get the idea. Air fried chicken wings are incredibly simple, incredibly straightforward, and honestly just delicious. If you're just starting out as a home cook, I would certainly recommend giving these air fried chicken wings a shot, especially because it's a lot more straightforward than deep frying. Cheers. Oh, you're still here? I wonder if you can get any sound bites. We're not a mukbang channel, but these are some pretty damn good wings. Highly recommend.